When you think of H.G. Wells, your mind probably jumps straight to The War of the Worlds or The Time Machine, right? We all see him as one of the fathers of science fiction. But what if I told you that the real key to his incredible visionary imagination wasn't in his fiction at all? Today, we're going to go inside Wells's mind, and we're using his own autobiography as our map. We'll explore just how the world he was born into shaped the man who would literally dream up new ones.
And you know what? Wells himself gives us our theme right here. He saw his life as more than just a list of things that happened. For him, it was this dynamic, constant push and pull between his own consciousness, his mind, and the world that was always pressing in on it. So let's follow that thread. How did the world of Victorian England forge the mind that would try to reshape the entire future?
The way Wells tells it, his own story is a journey. He said it would start in what he called perplexity, then move through a troubled awakening, and finally, it would all lead to a clear sense of purpose. And that's the exact arc we're going to follow, from a world that made absolutely no sense to him to a world who was determined to fix.
So, what was this early world like? Well, it was anything but grand. It was small, it was dark, and it was poor. He remembers living mostly downstairs and underground, in a house just crawling with bugs, where the smell of paraffin was always in the air. Then disaster struck. His dad, a professional cricketer, broke his leg, and just like that, his career was over. The family's money? Gone. His mother had to go back to work as a housekeeper, and at just 14 years old, Wells was sent away to be a draper's apprentice. It was a dead end. It was a trap. And this is where you see the two worlds that were constantly fighting for his soul. On one side, you've got the suffocating reality of the draper's shop, these mindless tasks like folding turkey twill or trying to wrangle and unruly a fat blanket. He called it the living sting of my servitude. But then, on the other side was his escape, the library at a grand house called Up Park. In there, he devoured Voltaire, Tom Paine, and Plato's Republic, a book he called very releasing because it planted this radical idea in his head that the entire world, the whole system, could be melted down and completely remade.
Now, this escape, it wasn't just about getting out of the shop. It was about getting into his own mind. Fueled by those incredible books, Wells fought tooth and nail for a formal education. And it was there that he didn't just learn facts. He started to consciously build a brand new identity for himself.
And this was the game changer. Studying biology under T.H. Huxley, a guy so fierce they called him Darwin's bulldog, it was like someone handed him a brand new pair of eyes. All of a sudden, he had this scientific framework, this evolutionary lens, to understand everything, not just animals, but society, class, the whole sweep of human history. The world wasn't fixed. It was a process, something that could change, adapt, and evolve.
And this leads us to a really fascinating idea that Wells himself came up with, the persona. He believed that the identity we show to the world isn't really us. Not the whole us, anyway. It's a role we construct, a kind of performance that can change and evolve over time. For Wells, learning to master his persona was a way of taking control of his own life.
So on the public stage, he built this persona of the serious intellectual. He became a prominent socialist, and he joined the very influential Fabian Society to debate how to reform society with absolute giants of the time, like George Bernard Shaw. This was Wells, the public world builder, the guy trying to design a better future for everyone. But here's the thing. Behind that super serious public face was a totally different guy. In private, he was always drawing these goofy, self-mocking little cartoons he called Pishwas. In them, he was this bumbling character named Mr. Bins, and his wife was Miss Bits. It was his secret weapon, his way of deflating his own ego and making sure that his grand public persona didn't completely swallow the man underneath.
So you've got this tension, right, between the grand planner and the messy, emotional man. And that tension drove him toward the great purpose of his life. He started to see his own struggles, not just as personal problems, but as symptoms of a deeply broken world that needed a radical cure.
He boiled it down to this central conflict between what he called the schema, our grand, rational plan for our lives, and the chaotic, unpredictable pull of passion and love. Wells felt this battle inside himself every single day, and he saw it as the core human drama, the constant war between our best-laid plans and our deepest desires. And this wasn't just some abstract philosophical idea, His own personal turmoil made him question the most fundamental rules of society. He started arguing that institutions like marriage weren't sacred or permanent at all.
He saw them as social constructs, just as temporary as the economic system of his day, and just maybe a major obstacle to real human progress.
So, really, his whole worldview kind of distills down into this powerful three-step argument. First, the diagnosis. Modern society runs on the labor of people whose potential was, in his words, arrested before 14, just like his almost was. Second, the inspiration he got from Plato. Society isn't fixed, it can be completely remade. And that led him to his radical conclusion. The only way forward is a single, classless global society organized completely on scientific principles.
And that conclusion? Well, it became more than an idea. It became his life's ultimate purpose, the grand vision that consumed him and defined his work for the rest of his career, the creation of a single, unified planet. He called this whole project the Open Conspiracy, and it wasn't some vague dream. It was a practical blueprint. He imagined a world state run not by messy politicians, but by a capable, educated elite. For him, this wasn't a nice to have. No, he believed this was the immediate, urgent task for all thinking people, because the alternative was global catastrophe. He even wrote enormous nonfiction books like The Outline of History, just to try and give this new world a common story, a shared past, to build a shared future on.
I mean, just step back for a second and think about that journey. It is absolutely staggering. From a boy literally trapped in a dark, bug-infested basement, his mind traveled out, past the draper's shop, through the halls of science, beyond the chaos of his own life, to imagine and to actually plan a new destiny for the entire human race.
And that, of course, leaves us with a huge question for today. We live in a world that's more connected than Wells could have ever dreamed of, but it's also deeply fractured. So a century later, is his vision of a single planned world state some kind of prophetic blueprint we're slowly moving towards? Or is it just a forgotten dream from a bygone era?
Question 1 of 10. What pivotal event in H.G. Wells's childhood led to a prolonged period of bed rest, during which he developed a deep and lasting passion for reading? Answer: B. He broke his leg in an accident. Question 2. H.G. Wells's miserable experience as a draper's apprentice served as direct inspiration for which of his novels? Answer: D. Kipps. Question 3. At the Normal School of Science in London, H.G. Wells studied biology under which renowned advocate for Darwin's theory of evolution? Answer: D. T.H. Huxley. Question 4. According to his autobiography, Wells's second wife, Amy Catherine Robbins, was known almost exclusively to him and their friends by what nickname? Answer: B. Bits. Question 5. What was a key reason for H.G. Wells's conflict with and eventual resignation from the Fabian Society? Answer: D. He tried to push the society towards a more radical, directive, and less parliamentary approach. Question 6. What were the pictuas that H.G. Wells frequently created throughout his second marriage? Answer: C. Small, humorous sketches that served as a burlesque diary of his life with his wife. Question 7. Which of Wells's major nonfiction works was a pioneering attempt to present a unified history of humanity for the ordinary citizen and became an enormous popular success? Answer: B. The Outline of History. Question 8. In his autobiography, how does Wells characterize his relationship with fellow author Joseph Conrad? Answer: A. As a strained acquaintance between two fundamentally different minds. Question 9. In his book Anticipations, 1900, what name did Wells give to his concept of a future world state run by an emergent class of educated, functional people? Answer: B. The New Republic. Question 10. What was the name of the needy shabby home and china shop in Bromley where H.G. Wells was born and spent his formative years? Answer: D. Atlas House.